My first impression when I saw this album artwork pop up was, okay, is this the internet version of the child star who's grown up and wants to show us how mature they are now? When Poppy's odd and surreal videos first went viral, there was speculation as to whether she was just computer generated or maybe it was an obscure marketing campaign. She then started releasing music, and I gave it a listen, but I couldn't really get into it. It all felt very spin-off. And then this totally off-brand album artwork popped up and I was kind of intrigued. So today we're spinning Poppy's third album, I Disagree. It turned out that this project was all a collaboration between singer-songwriter Poppy and director-musician Titanic Sinclair. In a moment we'll have a track-by-track listen, but overall, and despite having 2 albums out already, I Disagree feels like an artist's debut. The lyrics feel like they're actually written by her and not just her character, and they're often vague and very interpretable. There's themes of struggle and perseverance, strength and weariness, and individuality and identity, and whilst the lyrics do occasionally stray into cliche territory, I found there was still a lot to connect with here. Whilst the music comes in a metal package, inside there's a mishmash of various genres. The metal brings power and urgency and anger to the moments that do need it, but there's also electronics and pop and dreaminess as well. And this variety feels purposeful and not just eclectic, and it's pretty fun. Now let's get into the tracks. I'd prepped myself for an inauthentic novelty album full of metal cliches, just trying hard to seem edgy. And the first track, Concrete, seemed to confirm those suspicions. But at each point in this track where you think you have it figured out, the music changes. It's very subversive and kind of makes this musical statement that this album is going to refuse to be what you might expect. By the end, we have the same chorus, but this time upbeat with clean guitars and even a cowbell. By this point, my biases are set aside. I love the lyrics in the chorus. The whole 6 feet deep thing is pretty standard metal fare, but the idea of being turned into a street, that kind of quirky imagery is something I would have more expected from an early Bjork album than anything metal. The title track, I Disagree, is one that I enjoy, but there's a few pet peeves in here that stop me listening outside of spinning the whole album. The main riff is powerful, heavy, and wonderfully mixed, but it's also incredibly similar to Bring Me the Horizon's fairly recent single, Wonderful Life. The lyrics are probably the closest we get to Poppy the internet character. And what I mean by that is, for a song with such anger, the repeated phrase, I disagree, feels comparatively polite and quite mild-mannered. I kind of like it.
I disagree with the way you continue to pressure me. I disagree with the way you are failing to pleasure me.
The song is fun and catchy, especially the vocal hook, which from Japanese directly translates to I disagree with you. However, the chorus feels pretty uninspired. You know, any song that has the whole burn it down, tear it down, falling down thing, it just comes across as a bit lazy. The third track, Blood Money, hits with Poppy's distorted voice straight up yelling to a simple slamming beat. There's virtually no melody here. Even the dubstep style synths are mostly percussive.
Beg for forgiveness from Jesus the Christ. Beg for forgiveness from Jesus the Christ.
The meaning behind this song seems to be twofold, both about someone's denial of their bad behaviour due to their belief in Christianity, but also about the exploitation in the music industry. In fact, Poppy and Titanic have said that there was a particular executive they had in mind when writing this song.
Never forget the excess of a man, because the grabbing hands always grab what they can. What do you believe?
I love how, whilst criticising the music industry, the song ditches that traditional verse-chorus song structure. And this is a fantastic aggression song. Particularly on vinyl, it's dynamic, although I do wish that the kick scraped a little deeper into the bass. The next song, Anything Like Me, is deeply personal and probably my favourite. The song seems to be about a former collaborator of Titanic's who sued him and Poppy for allegedly plagiarising her concept, as well as some abuse allegations. The electronic beats have this building, galloping pace, almost like a fast heartbeat, and it really matches the kind of I dare you feel to the lyrics.
Go on and give up the gun. If this is a test, with all due respect, you're not gonna fool me. I'm everything she never was.
Now this could be just interpreted as a diss track, and the spoken word style adds to this. However, I think it's deeper than that. Poppy turns the criticism inward, repeating over and over, "You shouldn't be anything like me." Then the harsh music abruptly stops, and we're left with these delicate, lamenting vocals.
I feel her heart beating in me. Get her out of me.
It could be about a loss of identity, but maybe also empathizing through a shared experience. There's acoustic guitar and real drums, and it's such a stark contrast to before. And then the music takes a final turn. There's crash cymbals and a deep bass guitar slamming on every beat. And there's something really chilling about this self-made YouTube star screaming out. Thematically, Fill the Crown is in the same basket as the title track, but instead of just burning things down, this time there's hope as well.
You can be anyone you want to be. You can be free. You can be free.
This lighter sound is a welcome breather. The song goes between that chorus and some darker verses with what sounds like a very intentional Marilyn Manson impression. But even these don't feel as serious.
Boys on the family, make the children cry.
There's even hip-hop beats here and there, and as a closer to side A, it's a good bit of fun. Before we flip the record, one thing that is standing out so far is how some of the lyrics could be interpreted as alluding to alleged abuse by former collaborator Titanic Sinclair. I Disagree was the last time that the close duo and former couple worked together, splitting just before its release. It's a pretty depressing topic, and there's heaps of videos out there covering it, so I won't go into detail, but it does remind me a lot of the writing in and situations surrounding Evanescence's massive 2003 debut, Fallen. Evanescence was also a close duo of former couple Amy Lee and Ben Moody, and in Fallen, the lyrics could also be interpreted as alluding to alleged abuse by Ben, who left soon after its release. The fanbase reaction was also very similar, and I just find it an interesting comparison. On first look at the cover, there's the obvious comparison to the corpse paint makeup typical of black metal bands. However, it turns out it's actually an ink blot that's been superimposed over Poppy's menacing stare. I thought maybe this spilled ink that can't be put back in the bottle was representative of this irreversible turning point in her career, but maybe I'm just reading into it too much. Side B starts off with the track Nothing I Need. Now, if you do pick up the record and you hear the intro kind of wavering off pitch, don't worry, your turntable's fine, it's part of the track. Musically, the song's more straightforward. It's very dreamy and set to this trip-hop beat.
Here's your prize for competition. They would die for your position.
This musical style works with the song's more contemplative theme. She sings about attaining success and fame and realizing that although it's what she wanted, it's not really what she needs. And it fits well into the overarching story of the album, but still it is a common staple of follow-up albums and a very well-worn subject, so it's rare that an artist adds anything new. Still, I'm liking the new wave vibes though.
I'll never ask permission.
The next two tracks bring that heaviness back. I get real garbage vibes from the vocal melody in the industrial track Sit Stay. And Bite Your Own Teeth has the most straightforward metal of the album. There's also a mix of dreamy parts and manic parts, and this mix kind of reminds me of the first track, Concrete.
Creep
Own Teeth doesn't quite have the same overall cohesion as Concrete, feeling a bit more stuck together. The breakdown also feels very self-aware, and I'm sure it would go off live, but here it just kind of feels tacked on to the end.
Go.
The last two tracks are down-tempo and melancholic. Sick of the Sun is psychedelic guitar-driven pop, and whilst the lyrics aren't poppy at her most creative, the dreamy reverby music is pretty soothing after that previous onslaught.
Go away. I just wanna float away.
The final track, Don't Go Outside, closes by splicing lyrics from many of the previous songs all into one, kind of like saying, this is what this album's been about. Leaving us on the lyric, you can be anyone you want to be, reminds me a lot of the ultimate takeaway from the 1975 film The Rocky Horror Picture Show. That message of don't dream it, be it, was particularly powerful for its time, and one that's still worth repeating. This encapsulates the positive theme of this album, the empowerment to take control of your image, the refusal to stay in the confines of any genre, and not just being who you think you are, but being the person that you want to be. The fact that I wanted to comment on every song here, and thanks for sticking with me, is an indicator of a good varied album, and that mishmash of sounds and genres doesn't feel unfocused. I Disagree sits very comfortably alongside releases like Bring Me the Horizon's Ammo, and as long as you're not sensitive to a few cliches, I reckon the album's worth picking up. If you're thinking of picking up this album, or you've heard it, I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments, and if you don't feel like watching the credits, that's absolutely fine. There's actually a skip button down below. It's red and says subscribe. Thanks for joining me.